Hello everyone, it's Miroslav and welcome to our YouTube channel. And in today's video lesson, we are gonna talk about different techniques which are gonna allow you to optimize your painting process, make it faster and achieve stunning results. And before we move on, I would like to ask you to like this video. It really motivates us and allows us to know which video content you like most and what to concentrate our efforts on. So I hope you already done it. If yes, then let's go. In today's video lesson, an amazing artist, watercolorist, who is mainly painting realistic landscapes, Joe Dowden, is gonna share with you his tips on how to use masking fluid, because he is a real master of applying this technique in his paintings. And he's always saying that I'm not painting landscapes, I'm painting lights. And masking fluid and masking techniques is the ones which allow you to paint realistically the sun rays, the sun rays going through the greens, through the trees, and he really succeeded in it. And in today's video lesson, he's gonna share with you how to apply different masking techniques. And before we move on, I would like to invite you all to Joe Dowden's mini course, in which you're gonna paint an amazingly beautiful and stunning, realistic summer landscape and learn how to actually achieve these effects with watercolor. We're gonna learn how to mix different greens without using green, of course. We're gonna learn how to paint sparkling water. We're gonna talk about sun rays and how to paint it in a landscape, and many more. And above all, you're gonna practice using masking techniques in Joe Dowden's style. So join us via active link in the description to this video, and let's discover the world of watercolor together with Joe Dowden. And now you're gonna learn about masking technique from Joe Dowden. So let's go.
Hello, I'm Joe, and I'm going to get through as many masking techniques as I can in the shortest possible time. Firstly, I use colourless art masking fluid or white art masking fluid. The reason is masking fluid will leave whatever colour it is behind on the paper. If you use grey masking fluid, there'll be a slight grey wash, very pale, on the paper, but you'll lose that pristine whiteness, which defeats the object for me, because I want the whiteness from masking. I want it to really sparkle. And I'll also choose a paper that's fairly white. This is on Arches 300 pounds rough. The whitest paper I use at the moment is Fabriano Artistico. I use quite a bit of that. So the first technique, Indian ink pen nib. Dip it, remove the excess so you don't get drops on the paper. If you do get drops on the paper, you have to be patient. You have to dry it, you have to take off the drops, start again. Mask the fine hairs, not many, just a few, that's enough. Fine hairs on the little girl's head. I also use this brush. This is a fine pointing white synthetic brush, doesn't have to be white, just happens to be white. And mask a few thicker lines. That's what hair looks like when it all clumps together. Incidentally, I use cheap brushes for masking. I don't put soap in them to protect them. Soap is alkali. Alkali will turn the paper yellow. That defeats the object for me. I want this pristine whiteness and I want my paintings to last. Next technique. This is a cheap hog hair brush. In the UK you can buy them in cheap packs for children to paint with in the pound shop or other cheap shops. You get the brush, crunch it up a bit so it splays out, get some masking fluid on your palette, pour some out, dip it very gently into the masking fluid, and then dip it very gently onto the paper for sparkles. Sparkling water, this is Jupa Dubrovačka in Croatia, and this is sparkling water near the little village of Mlini. So that gives you beautiful sparkles. Pull the brush away between each dab, turn it a little bit before you dab again. Otherwise you'll get lots of shapes that are all the same, it'll look unnatural. This is done with the hog hair brush technique, lots of sparkles. Also they're joined up a little bit with this nice pointing synthetic brush. I use a slightly larger one, this is about a number 2, I used a number 4, but the effect is exactly the same. Nice pointing synthetic brush. So here's another technique. This is using the Indian ink nib. These are all little twigs and sticks on the shore of a lake. You mask them with the Indian ink nib. You also use a fine pointing synthetic brush, a few like that. Then you put my autumn wash over it. This was a light grey brown using a bit of quinacridone gold. Brush that across, then mask a few more. After doing a very pale wash, mask a few more. Put a darker wash on, then you can mask a few more. You can have 2 or 3 layers and finish off with the really dark accents and the shadow, and that will give it depth. Here's another interesting technique. Kitchen roll. Scrumpled up piece of kitchen roll, dip it in the masking, dab it on the paper for these glinting foliage effects. Like so many of my paintings, we're looking into the sun and these are sun glints on the foliage, dabbed with a piece of scrumpled up kitchen roll. Here's another method. What I've done here is I've painted between the trees. I haven't painted the trees, I've painted between the trees, the light spaces, with masking fluid. And I've masked all of these spaces between the trees rather than paint the trees themselves. Then I've got a wash of dark greenish grey tree colour. Once the masking is dry, I've brushed the wash right the way across like that in one great sweep, and then I've removed the masking fluid and the trees have just appeared. Just here we see the Mast Sparkle technique. This is the River Arun at a little port called Littlehampton, again in the UK. Just dab, remove the brush, turn it round, dab again. Don't turn the brush on the paper, just dab. In here you can see a lot of straight, neat masking for the sun glinting on the roofs of the boats, on the edges of the boats. Gradually build up a pattern, and multi-layered masking. After painting a grey, I've masked more. So multi-layered masking is often key. Here's an interesting one. This is underwater stones. Everybody loves underwater stones. They're not difficult to paint. Here I've masked a few bits on the surface of the water. They could be sparkles, they could be floaty bits. Very effective. And I've used my fine nib and little brush. Then I've put the water wash on, the first water wash, dark brown, blue there, white paper there, all mixed together. When that's dried, I've masked all these stone shapes. Quite jagged and square, but long shapes. Always mask long shapes. Stuff that's underwater is stretched by refraction, it's compressed. It always looks long. So mask the long shapes, then you put the next wash over it, and you've got your underwater stones once the masking comes off. Here I've masked the glint of sun, the sun glinting on the backs of these ducks in the water, and then I've just painted in a very free and easy style. This is an interesting one. Masked reeds. You mask with the Indian ink brush, with your fine pointing brush, then paint the first layer, the pale layer, greenish brown, mask again, paint darker, mask again, paint darker. You can do 3 or 4 layers, finish with the darks, remove all the masking, and you've got the depth in the grass. And finally, this technique involves, if I can find it, a really messed up brush. It's in here. You dab with a really messed up brush. I don't know how well you can see it. There's loads of masking dried on there. Dab all the lights. Takes a while, but it's not difficult. A wash of grey, pink, pinkish grey, pale. Mask again over the pinkish grey. Then a wash of kind of lavender, lilac, blue grey, blue pinkish grey over that for the shadow in the blossom. Mask again, and then put in the darks, and that's a blossom tree. Just here you can mask very straight lines with a ruling pen. That's a ruling pen. You can adjust the width, and you can even use it with a ruler. I haven't done it here, but that can give you these straight lines. And this swan, that's just masked with a neat brush very carefully. So there's a few techniques to be getting on with.
So, have you noticed how Joe Dowden loves what he's doing? I'm sure yes. And I hope that he could give you a little bit of his passion, and it really deserves your likes. And if you want to go even further and learn not only how to do it, but also apply it and practice it and paint an amazingly beautiful summer landscape with Joe Dowden, so follow the active link in the description to this video and join Joe Dowden's mini course. And great that you watched this lesson. I hope you learned a lot, and I wish you success in painting in watercolor, and see you next time. Bye bye.